What's going on, guys? Welcome back. My name is Brandon and today we've got a MIG aluminum welding and fabrication project. Stick around. This is what we're working on today, guys. This is my wife's 2011 KTM 350 SXF, and as you can see, probably looks a little low in the rear. I just got done installing a lowering kit. Should be coming out within the next few days on my other channel, which is Motivated 207. That's these links right here, but that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is this bike has a kickstand. It no longer works because the bike is sitting about a little over 3 inches lower than it used to. So I've got the bike propped up vertical on this table, and you can see the original kickstand, which is right here. We'll have to take it off, and it's got the bottom feet that are screwed in. Well, that would work if we didn't have to cut so much out of it, but as you can see, there's actually a recessed notch in this kickstand, which is going to make this area where we would have to thread non-existent. We're going to probably end up having to cut it off down in this area somewhere. Wow, guys, that's going to be a lot. We're going to end up taking off this kickstand. So I've put some lean on the bike a little bit to simulate where I want it to sit. And now you can see how much we got to take off this kickstand. Kickstand's way down here, which is about 3 inches that we have to take off it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a piece of flat bar and just make it contact the kickstand, and then we can scribe it using a scribe right along the back edge and all the way around it. Now we'll turn it, put a mark here. Then we'll do the same thing on the back side with another mark. You can even wrap it around the front just a little bit by hanging the metal off the front edge. And that'll give us a nice straight line to cut by. Now we just got to take off the kickstand, which is these two bolts, and we can go cut it and start our fabrication. I think they actually make a lowered kickstand for this bike for doing these modifications, but I had just bought the kickstand. My wife just recently rode this when we went on a little trip together, and she kind of fell in love with the bike. That prompted me to go look for a bike for her right around this size. I really couldn't find one. We did the next best thing, and I gave her mine, but she's a little too short for it, and I went out and bought myself a new 450. So everyone really made out. My wife wound up with a bike that's super comfortable for her. It's powerful, and it'll be challenging for her for a little while, and I ended up with a new one for me. This will last her many years to come. Now you can see our cut mark all the way around, and now you can actually see why we can't just re-bolt it on. I had originally planned to just take out these two screws, cut the kickstand shorter, and then just re-drill and tap it. But for obvious reasons, you can see these screws right here go into this thick meaty part of this aluminum kickstand. We need to cut the kickstand way up here, and these ribs or these webs just aren't wide enough to be able to drill and tap into to hold those screws. The only other alternative is going to be to weld it. What I've done is just clamped a little piece of wood to this table, and I'll show you why, because I'm going to need to feed this kickstand through with this side touching and this side touching here. That cut right there is plumb up and down. That's the angle that we need to get the right bevel on this. All this is, guys, this is my portable bandsaw stand that I built. I have the material cut list and all the details about this on how to build it, and I'll have a link to that video. Super easy. So if you have one of these portable bandsaws, this is an awesome tool so that you use your bandsaw all the time, because there was a while I just wasn't really using it. I use it every day now just because it's so handy to have set up like this, and there's only one clamp and this comes right out and it can be used like a regular bandsaw. Alright, let's cut this up. Now we'll get this clamped in the vise so we can get this foot off. This is the part we need to keep. Now the next thing we got to do is we got to get this paint and finish off this pad, and we got to get the paint and finish off this so that we can weld these two pieces together like this. I'm going to clamp this up in a vise and use a stainless steel wire wheel on it. Now I'm going to try to be real careful because I don't want to take off way more than I have to. I'm going to end up taking off some, and we'll have to end up repainting this, but it's inevitable, but I'm going to do the best I can. And because I know that MIG welding aluminum leaves a big bead, I'm going to V this out just a little bit. You can see I got the edges all beveled back. It just gives the weld a nice place to go. And now I'm going to do a final cleanup with a flap disc just to remove any of the contamination from the paint that the stainless steel wheel might have put into this part. I'm going to take a minute to talk about the setup. For this I'm going to be using a spool gun, but you don't have to use a spool gun, and I'm going to explain the reasons why. I'm using Blue Demon 35 thousandths 4043 wire. The reason I'm using 4043 is that it's a little bit softer. It runs a little bit better. Basically, it just goes in a little bit smoother for me. But you can also do the same exact thing by switching out the liner in your MIG gun for a Teflon liner and then just running aluminum straight through that. I've done that many times. As you can see, I'm all set up with 45 thousandths wire right now to do this. Very little things that you have to do differently. You just use a U-groove drive roller that's designed for aluminum, and you're going to want to use 5356 wire. And the reason for that is that 5356 wire is a little bit harder than the 4043. If you try to run the 4043 wire through your MIG gun liner whip and it's extending all the way around, you're going to have problems because it's not going to want to feed down through it. 5356 wire is a little bit heavier duty, and you're going to be able to have a lot better results. 4043 wire, on the other hand, is super soft, and it's only got to push from here to here before it comes out the MIG gun. That's the advantages of having a spool gun, is that you don't get a lot of the feed issues that are associated with what's called a push style gun. The wire is pulled off the reel and then pushed through the liner, however long that liner is, whether it's 12 feet, 10 feet, or 15 feet. The longer this MIG whip, the more problems that you can have with it bird nesting. The spool gun just helps eliminate a lot of those issues. But don't get me wrong, I've done a lot of MIG welding with aluminum through the standard MIG gun that comes on it, and you'll have no issues whatsoever as long as you set your machine up properly. And I have a video that talks all about that, and I'll link it up above. So for this process, you're going to need a MIG welder, or a MIG welder that's capable of having a spool gun hooked to it, like I have here. You're going to need a bottle of straight argon gas, and you're going to be welding on DC electrode positive. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't understand, why can't you weld aluminum with a MIG welder? I thought you had to have a TIG welder, and it's got to have AC power. It does, honestly, guys, and I really don't know the reason behind that. It just works. This is designed for this. This just works. I think with the AC, when you're doing TIG, that you do have that AC sine wave, which helps clean. So for this, I find that you just got to do a lot better job on making sure that all your parts are clean, because you're not getting that cleaning action like you do with AC. I'm sure that somebody who's a lot more technical could explain that, why the difference between AC TIG and DC aluminum MIG welding, but that's not what this video is about. I'm just showing you the practicality that you can do it, and it works great, and it actually provides a good looking bead. And you can see, guys, this right here was MIG welded. This is a MIG welded joint. It kind of almost looks like TIG. It lays in there nice. You can see it's got good penetration. You can see it actually has on this side some transfer. It's gone through. That's actually not overly desirable, but it does prove that you can get a good bead appearance, and that laid in really nicely right there. And that was done using a MIG welder, just like this right here. I'm using pure argon, and I've got it set for 30 CFH. I'll pull the trigger over here, and you can see where the ball goes up. There it is right there. And as I said, I'm using 35 thousandths Blue Demon 4043 wire. And I'm using it on the Yes Welder YWM 211P. And you can see I got like a chart, and I use this pretty much for most of my aluminum welding. And what I do is, once I find a setting that works good, I actually write it down and store it, and then leave this chart right in there. You can see that channel 1 is for 1/8 inch aluminum using 5356 wire, 30 thousandths, but that's using it not with a spool gun, that's using it with a liner. And number 2 channel is the same, but it's a little bit hotter. So if I'm doing like a butt weld, I may want setting 1. If I want it a little bit hotter and I'm doing like a T-joint, I can set it for number 2, knowing that it's the same. Number 3 is for a spool gun with aluminum, using 3/64 4043 wire, using 1/8 inch metal. And then number 4, that's what I'm on right now, is 035 wire 4043 on 1/8 inch material, and that's using Blue Demon wire with a spool gun. Some wires just run a little bit different than others, so I mark the wire brand that I'm using so that I know. That's what I'm on right now. And then setting 0 is 1/8 inch aluminum, 35 thousandths 4043. That's a pulse setting. And here are my manual settings right down below that. And I keep the chart right up here. It's just a real handy way to have everything that I need right close by. I just got to wipe all these parts down last minute with some acetone, and we'll be ready to weld these up. Aluminum fumes are really bad to be breathing in, so make sure you're wearing a respirator and that you're in good ventilation. The hardest part for this is going to be just tacking it up. I'm going to have to basically just hold it there and kind of like tack it on the inside and then just move to the outside to weld. It did not come out the way I was hoping that it would at all, guys. Whatever it was, I could not get this to weld, so I ended up doing like 3 passes on it. It doesn't look great, but you know what? All it has to do is hold this pad on the bottom of this foot of this kickstand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just blend it all in. You know what they say, grinder and paint make you the welder that you ain't, but you know, not all stuff can be welded perfectly. I don't know what this is. This could be old pop cans for all I know. Obviously there was a reason why this foot was bolted to this, because they could have easily cast this all as one piece, but they didn't. And as soon as I put heat to this, it acted as though it had all kinds of trash in it, like it did not want to weld. I'm actually glad that this happened, because I think that in the welding community and people who make videos and whatnot, it's easy to look as though everything is always perfect and everything comes out great and there's never any problems, and then you guys go to do the same thing or repeat it and duplicate it and you can't figure out what am I doing wrong. This is the reality of welding, guys. Not everything is going to work out perfectly, whether it's the material is not good, whether you don't have the experience. You're going to encounter these challenges, guys, and this is just a perfect example of some of those challenges. But, you know, a lot of times it's overcoming it. And you know what they say, probably you've heard, you know, grinder and paint is the welder that you ain't. But, you know, a lot of times that's what you have to do. The options are is to grind it out and start over, or do what I do here. It's not structural. All this has to do, guys, is hold a foot on the end of this kickstand, and although it doesn't look good, I'll make it look good. And rather than going out and spending another $125 for a custom kickstand, I've done this for free, and this will look just fine on this bike. Trust me, it'll look great. But it is a great example of everything that can go wrong in welding. And if you have the right settings and a known material and the right metal, you can actually make it look really good. When you're doing MIG welding aluminum, 1/16 of an inch is really pushing it. That's right on the edge of burning through and blowing out. And you can see on the back side here that this transfer actually went through. That's not desirable, but it does show that it's making penetration. The thicker the material, the easier it is to do when you're MIG welding aluminum. But just know that 1/16 of an inch material is right on the outer edge of what you're able to do. You know, I would say probably 1/8 inch, 3/16. That's the sweet spot when MIG welding aluminum. A lot of people would cut this out and not show this part, but again, this is realistic stuff. These are realistic things that you're going to encounter. It's all a gamble sometimes when you're welding on unknown material, especially aluminum, that you don't know what it is for material and how it was cast. So let me blend this in, make it look a little bit better. We'll get some paint on it, and then we'll get this bolted back up on the bike. Although I'd like to, you know, show you guys how great every little project is that I do and how awesome everything is and how trouble-free everything is, that's not how it works out. And you guys that are following this channel, that are picking up welding or just starting out, you know that that's the case too. So what you're experiencing, guys, and sometimes the frustrations that you see when you're trying to do something and you just want it to look absolutely perfect and you can't figure out why, sometimes a lot of that's out of your control. Some of it is just you need to practice a little bit more, but this could be a little bit of both as well. But maybe if all I did was weld aluminum and I did nothing else, I probably could have come up with some tricks and some settings and some things to do that would help me be able to weld this material part. It must have something in it. I don't know. It could be old pop cans for all I know, but there's obviously a reason why they elected to bolt this foot to this piece of aluminum. Gave me some problems, but we're going to overcome that. And I just want you guys to know that if you're struggling during welding and you're just not getting it, try not to get frustrated. I know it's super easy, especially if you're a perfectionist and you just like to get things done perfectly every time. I'm kind of a perfectionist and I just want to be perfect at anything I set my mind to, but that's not reality, guys. As much as we strive to do a good job and be perfect all the time, you just can't. It's not reality. So you do the best that you can with the knowledge that you have, and part of welding is adapting and overcoming and fixing. For this, if this was a structural part, I wouldn't use it, obviously. If this was a customer's job, they wouldn't get charged for it. So maybe lucky them, potentially. But this is my part, and this is my thing, and I wouldn't take on a job if I didn't think I could do it anyways. I will grind this down, I will make it look good, and like I said, this is just a foot to keep this kickstand from sinking in the dirt. Part of that fixing it or making it right again is going to be grinding it down. Just kind of showed you guys this so that you hopefully feel maybe a little bit better that if you're struggling on welding and things just aren't working out the way you want them to work out, just keep practicing, keep doing it and making little baby steps forward, because a little bit of forward progress is progress. Don't get discouraged. Just keep moving on, and if you got to grind a weld here and there to make it look a little bit better, then grind a weld. Do what you got to do. That's that, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. There's new videos every Friday, so until next week, I will see you guys then. Take care. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. We're closing in on 100,000 subscribers, and it's viewers like you that make this possible. Till next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care, stay safe, and God bless. That's how you take a not so perfect job and kind of turn it into something a little bit better. A bit of grinding, a little bit of fingernail polish for paint, and it comes right into it. And another great thing too, guys, if you ever were to take this link out, you could always now tap this, drill and tap it, and then just put a 3-inch block on the bottom of it and bolt it right to the bottom of this stand. It would be light enough because it's aluminum, and then you wouldn't have to do anything new as far as the kickstand, because this is plenty thick that you could just drill and tap into it, and that'd work perfect. Till next week, guys, I will see you then.